Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, July 8th, 2022 at 9:15 a.m. and it is time for the Angelus and the Psalter. Alexa, cancel. If I may, before I begin, I had my breakfast already. I'm just gonna finish up with this fruit here real quick because vitamin C does help with the brain fog, and a little boost before prayer would be good anyway. So hold on. Let me get my napkin. There we are. You know, interestingly, just before this works better than this, and I use this to keep the blackboard cleaner. I don't know if it just happens to be a type of cheap chalkboard eraser, or if this would be better than all chalkboard erasers. I don't know. Angelus Domini Nunciavit Mariae, et concepit Spiritus Sanctum. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Ecce ancilla Domini, fiat mihi secundum verbum tuum. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Et verbum caro factum est et habitavit in nobis. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Ora pro nobis Sancta Dei Genitrix, ut digni efficiamur, per missionibus Christi, oremus. Gratiam tuum quaesimus Domini, mensibus nostris infunde, ut qui angelo nunciante Christi filii tui incarnationem coniovimus, per passionem eis et crucem, ad resurrectionis gloriam perducamur, per iundum Christum Dominum nostrum. Amen. in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Psalm 140. Rescue me, Lord, from the wicked, from the violent, keep me safe, from those who plan evil in their hearts and stir up strife every day, who sharpen their tongue like an adder's with the poison of viper on their lips. Lord, guard me from the hands of the wicked, from the violent, keep me safe. They plan to make me stumble. The proud have hidden a trap, have spread out lines in a net, set snares across my path. I have said to the Lord, you are my God. Lord, hear the cry of my appeal. Lord, my God, my mighty help, you shield my head in the battle. Do not grant the wicked their desire, nor let their plot succeed. Those surrounding me lift up their heads. Let the malice of their speech overwhelm them. Let coals of fire rain upon them. Let them be flung in the abyss, no more to rise. Let slanderers not stand upon the earth. Let the violent be hunted down by evil. I know that you will avenge the poor and do justice, Lord, for the needy. Yes, the just will praise your name. The upright shall live in your presence. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen. I feel pretty, I woke up this morning about 6 o'clock. I fell asleep last night. I ate. I had hot links. I haven't had hot links in a while, so I bought, if you see the grocery shopping video, I bought some hot links, and I put sauerkraut on them. Sauerkraut with chopped onions, relish, mustard, and ketchup. And I had 2 of those, and I was going to make asparagus. I fell asleep on the couch. When I usually sleep, I come in here and go to bed. Lately, the past year, I sit on the couch pretty rarely. Now and then, if it's hot in here, and it's warmer, it's cooler out there, and I'm not doing something like that I want privacy for, or comfort for, I go out there. Comfort is in, like, it's easier for me to work in here than it, you know what I mean? My computer desk is right over there. My desk is over here. My blackboard is here if I need to use it for something. I haven't been lately, but I do, there are times where I use it a fair amount off camera for my own stuff. Sometimes, if I need to make a quick note about something, or I want to work out, that's obviously for music. I haven't written music in a while. As far as that, I haven't written it, I haven't worked out music on the blackboard. That's for Species Counterpoint, to work out stuff for Species Counterpoint on the blackboard. And stuff like that. Before I write it down on paper, if I'm going to write it down on paper. So I fell asleep on the couch, and then I came in here. I woke up, I came in here, and I went to bed, and I woke up again for something, and then I went back to bed. I woke up this morning. I had terrible brain fog, and it was worse than it was worse than it was when I woke up yesterday. It lasted longer. It was more intense. I had a cup of coffee. It backed off a little bit, which is kind of unusual, but only a little bit. It was still like there. I ate. I felt a little bit better. Time passed. You know. Now the brain fog is diminished, which it didn't used to do so much. But it was always more intense when I woke up. I still have some right now, but you know what I mean? I'm able to be sitting here doing what I'm doing, enough to be able to do that. And I can speak. There are some videos of me with COVID brain fog. A few times I mention it, and other times, no, you can just tell by looking at me. Where my face is kind of like all like that, and I can't speak very well. Like, for example, perfect example is the video that I did some time ago about one of the first videos where HSA is in the title, if not the first one. Where San Mateo County, or it might just be HSA, and I'm talking about the need for oversight. And when I watched it back, I was like, whoa. You know, I mean, I knew what I was saying, but like, I was very inarticulate about it. And, you know, I don't worry about those things that much anymore. Because I also know, you know, people go, oh, wow, if somebody sees that. And I go, yeah, if somebody sees that, and they're as smart as I am, which I'm not trying to say I'm the smartest guy. I'm trying to say as smart as I am, okay? That's what I mean by that. They're not going to make any judgments I'm worried about. You know, now that's not necessarily true, because you know, I see things sometimes and I make offhand judgments that really, you know what I mean, that don't take everything into account. But I also know that I do that. And so, like, yeah, so it's not, you know what I mean? So I'm not too worried about that. I know that, I know that, you know, the whole idea is like, come on camera no matter what. I try anyway. You know what I mean? So far, so good. No matter, you know, whether I'm showered or not, or whether I have, you know, brushed my teeth, or other things like that, you know? The only thing, honestly, that I really try to prep as far on video, the only thing I really go, all right, well, is my house tour videos. But that, honestly, like, I haven't done a house tour video yet. I've taken pictures of my house when it has been thrashed and sent it to people. I haven't had the balls yet to do it. I haven't had the balls yet to do it. But we're getting there, and I'll tell you why. Because, well, this could backfire psychologically in my mind too. I was going to say, because you've seen, you know, by now there's enough evidence of who I am normally as a person that if I post a house tour video, it's probably, and my house is thrashed, it's probably not a big deal, is it? It's probably under control. You know, so, and I can rest easy on that. So, I mean, so that's probably coming, where I'm going to go like, oh, this is my house right now, and it's like, mess. Because it's been a mess several times. The houses get messy. And especially since I'm not feeling well, I can't keep up with my housework, which I do amazingly well for that. I have to tell you, like, wow, it surprises me how clean this house is, given what I'm dealing with lately, this past year and a half, too, almost. I feel like I was going somewhere, and now I forgot where I was. You should say. Yeah, well, okay, I'll just stop there. Terrible brain fog in there. Yeah, I couldn't speak. I already said all that, so I guess we're done. Let's go ahead and take medication. Naltrexone. be sure to check out the title screen for this video. It's pretty cool. I know title screens, oftentimes you can't see them full size, so you won't be able to read it. But I know that there are certain views where you can get a larger, I don't know how you do it all the time reliably, depending on the YouTube app you're in at the time. Will show you a larger size. But I got banned for a very innocuous post a long time ago on Facebook, maybe like 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I don't know, last year, almost last year, I think. And like completely innocuous, like ridiculously innocuous, and I screenshotted it. Glad I did. I mean, you can go back and look at your old band posts too in Facebook, but so then I use the language from the ban, Facebook's language. Your post, you previously posted something that violated our community standards. Your post goes against our standards on violence and incitement. So I picked a picture of the crucifixion, and I put it right next to that post. And I have people in the that are kind of witnesses to Christ's crucifixion. One of them goes, "You previously said something that violated our community standards." The other one says, "Yeah, it went against our standards on violence and incitement." And I think it's pretty cool. This is the way I'm doing it now. I'm just trying to get all the air out. And then I'm going to bring it down. There might be a better way to do it because you don't want, what I mean? If a little, we're only talking a half a milliliter medication here. So, a big air bubble isn't, you know what I mean? It's not nothing, I imagine. So, there we go. So this is awesome. So this is the way to do it. Down the hatch. Woo! No, just kidding. Okay, all right. What's in there? No. Actually, that's kind of like what probably happens. That's what happens to opiate addicts when they take, when they get injected with naltrexone or what's the other one, Naxalone or something like that. They don't like it. If you don't know anything about that, because it kills your high completely and it puts you into withdrawal. That's how it. So actually, they're not making up like, "Woo, I'm back." It's like, ugh. You know what I mean? Like going from like heaven, like where they're to like in withdrawal suddenly. So it's not too pleasant for them. We always do every day. Actually, we don't. Son of a bitch. Put drug addicts down in the groups of people we pray for, which is really weird because this is addiction ministry. But I'll take a moment just to for all the drug addicts out there. I'm not talking just the ones that are trying to get sober, the good ones. I'm talking about like all of them, all of us. Because sometimes we're in between. Sometimes, I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes it's really hard to know where you are. When, like for example, my drug use over the past 6 months has been so high that like it's hard to know at the moment whether or not at the moment, you have to understand, it's impossible to know sometimes at the moment whether or not you are living as a drug, living doing drugs, or trying your best not to, because it's like, woo. The only way you can know is because I look at what I'm doing here, and that reminds me sometimes. You know what I mean? That reminds me. It's not that you can't go by either. Believe it or not, it's crazy, but you can't go by the frequency of your drug use to determine that. You can't also go by your feelings about it, which is really strange, because most of the things, I think you can use a combination of those to see how serious you are about something. If you were not compulsively addicted to it, of course. So all drug addicts, you know what I mean? All drug addicts. And a moment of silence for us. I was just thinking, because a moment is 3 seconds. This is kind of silly. I was like, wouldn't it be funny? Because sometimes a moment of silence is like 30 seconds, oftentimes, somewhere around there. It varies however long, but it's not like no one says like, let's have a moment of silence. All right, and moving on. I mean, like, you don't usually have that happen. But wouldn't it be funny? So if you wanted 30 seconds of moments, like someone's like, let's have 10 moments of silence, or shit. 3 times 10 moments of silence. Wait, right? Yeah. Oh my God. That's kind of brain foggish. Does that to me a lot. I'm not the best person with math in my head, but since COVID, it's terrible. It's really terrible. I almost want to check. I almost want to check that on a calculator right now. But 3 times 10, yes, 3 times 10 is 30. All right? Good Lord, have mercy on my soul. So I'm going to keep you abreast. I haven't done any meth since the last time, which was 3 nights ago now. I should probably write this down because I'm going to, you know what I mean? So far, so good, which is awesome, because I haven't had, something's happened. I don't remember the last time I had, and I say that, by the way, keep in mind that, drug use does mess with your memory, right? So, like, and I don't particularly pay attention to tracking that at all. So that makes a difference, too. But I don't remember exactly when it was the last time I had, like, 3 days without something interrupting. That doesn't mean that, for example, haven't had 3 days and then a huge block, and then I mean, like, it could even be something like this, okay? Like a day and a half, boom, do it again. Day and a half again, do it again. But so it never gets to like 3. I don't remember. It's been a while. All right. So I'm really grateful, and I hope the Lord helps me, because especially during this time with this medication, I need to know what's going on. You know what I mean? I had a nice breakfast of bacon and eggs and toast, sourdough toast, and this fruit here. lisinopril 20 milligrams, vitamin D3 2,000 units. You know what I'm wondering about right now? What if I didn't know what this was? What if I didn't know, believe it or not, I mean, how to dose myself on liquid medication? Doctor never explained that. He didn't say get an oral syringe. And this is what an oral syringe is. You can get them at the pharmacy. Most of the time they give them out free if you ask behind the counter, but they also have them for sale. That's what I would have said. You know what I mean? Because, like, I know it seems like, you know, but a lot of people, I know, yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of drug addicts, depending on the kind of drug they do, are going to know. My friends are going to know how to do that, but they might not put it to, they might know how to do it. You know why? Because they know how to dose themselves on GHB with one of these. But, like, for example, so they might know, but there are people out there that might not know. What if you know? And some people, believe it or not, might not put it together. Like, yeah, I use one of these for GHB, but, like, what do I do? You know what I mean? Which would be it seems kind of weird, but sometimes you know that your brain fart like that. Let me go rinse this out. I'll be right back. You know, another thing he didn't explain to me is where should you put the medication? I was coming home thinking, on the way home, I'm like, how, in fact, I want to tell you right now, on the way home, I'm thinking, how am I going to take this medication? And I know. And I was like, how am I going to, and I was picturing like an eyedropper, maybe I'm going to do it like that. I don't know. Where am I going to store it? And I figured it out. And I was like, oh yeah, of course, the oral syringe, that'll give me the, and then I used an old medication container. Why didn't he should have mentioned that though. And I'm not trying to be a dick to him or anything like that, but I'm like, these are, number one, I'm already a drug addict, okay? Most drug addicts don't go to the doctor, so he may have said, hey, the fact that you're going to the doctor, you're probably a smart cookie or something. Maybe. But I would have said as a doctor, okay, you're in my head. All right, we're dealing with an addict here. We know the kinds of things, you know. Addicts are not usually not medication compliant. And I'm just going to go a step further here and say, okay, and he may want to be medication compliant, but a lot of times addicts, it's other things. It's not that addicts necessarily don't want to be medication compliant, even though a lot of them don't, I would imagine. But there's also the difficulties of addiction that get in the way of being medication compliant. Okay? So I would have said, I got to explain this, how this is doable for him, so that way, you know, he knows exactly. Because otherwise, there's too many pitfalls, just like I just described. All of those are reasons that are just going to make it difficult for the addict to take the medication. Or anyone, you know what I mean? Or anyone, really. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You need to make sure that the patient is familiar with what they need to do. And if they, you know, and you do that by telling them specifically, especially if there's any doubt, because those are all things like, yeah, like, whoa, where am I going to store this medication? How do I take it exactly? He never went over that. Now, I don't know. I mean, I'm fine, you know, but I really am concerned about, I don't want to see that happen to other people. And people won't, you know, you can ask, right? But yeah, people don't a lot of times. I was in doubt a little bit about at that moment because it wasn't in my head, but I didn't ask. A lot of times people too, it's so much information you get thrown at you, you're like, and then maybe you want to, so what should you do? You should call the office and be like, what should I do about this? But like a lot of us don't. You know what I mean? A lot of us really like what we kind of get sent on our way with is it. So, okay. My mom likes to say, you got to be your own advocate. She worked in healthcare, and she's right. She's right. But that, of course that doesn't mean that we don't call people out on stuff when we have the right to, when we should. Doctors definitely, you know what I mean? It should not be left up to the patients because they're the ones with the education. And so they need to provide instruction over things like that. And that's just common. I mean, I'm not even saying, that's not even novel of me to say. Everybody knows that. Okay. But in my doctor's defense, number one, I showed up 20 minutes late. So we were pressed for time. He had another patient waiting, and I didn't want him. I tell you the God's honest truth, when the nurse came into the room and said, your 3 o'clock is here, and it was 3 o'clock, and he kept going with me, I was thinking, I want him to get out to his other patient. I seriously did. I was like, I'm all right, you know what I mean? Cut me off here, and then we'll meet up, you know what I mean? I don't want you to take time away from your other patient who needs you. And he didn't take too much, but he took more than I would have. I'll be honest with you on that. So thank you, Dr. Bonilla. I mean, you know what I mean? I appreciate that. He didn't give me a hard time when I came in late. He said that, let's just get started because I want to get to the things that you need and stuff. And, we all approach a situation with a certain agenda, and I don't mean that in that loaded way, like the gay agenda or anything like that. But I mean is that we have just a certain way of looking at things that prioritizes certain things, and sometimes it deprioritizes other things, not necessarily out of like intentionally deprioritizing them, but because other things are paramount in our sight, the way we're approaching the situation, that's what gets the attention. And so, Dr. Bonilla, of course, you know what I mean? You're going to have a different, I know that I don't know a thing about you. And I know that because of what I do know is different about us, at least on the outside even, because I don't know, maybe you are a Dr. House. I don't know, right? Maybe you're a drug addict too. I don't know. But I do know that, like, from what I can see, our lifestyles are very different, and that, there's going to be a difference in an approach there. So, we got to allow, I think we have to allow for that and be considerate, toward other people. It's important to say the things that I just said prior to this, but it's also important to do what I'm doing right now. It really is. Do we do it all the time? No human does. Sometimes, we're in a bad mood and we just get pissed about something and blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. If you do it as soon as you possibly can, you know what I mean? If you do it, even if you do it a week later, you're still in good shape. You know what I mean? And if you've done any damage in that time, apologize and explain. And know that sometimes, when you do that, those people will jump on you like wolves. Because it's like chum. Remember I was talking about chum a few days ago? Yeah, they will. And that's why people are afraid to apologize. Because people are then going to load all this shit, you know what I mean, that they don't have to that they have to apologize for. And then there's a good place to dump on it, right on you there, because make it your fault. And people will do that. Let them do it. Don't worry. I know it seems, you know what I mean? It seems like, ugh. Let them do it. If you stand firm in that, where you're at, I want to say it'll balance out. I mean, it depends. Because, I mean, it'll be okay. Or I'll tell you this, I'll tell you what, because I know you have doubts about that. This is what I'm going to tell you. Try to practice it. Sometimes you'll find yourself really resistant and you're like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I've thought this out and I'm not doing it in this situation. Listen to yourself then. Right there. That's fine. Listen to the Lord, because that's the Lord speaking to. You may later go back and say, okay, I should have done it, but we're talking about at the time. We're talking about at the time and you haven't given it thought. If you don't feel you should do it, then don't. You know what I mean? That's all I can say. And that should be more, you should be more receptive to that, because I'm talking about you using, you know what I mean? You following some advice with your best judgment. Okay. As always, but I'm specifically saying it there. You know, that kind of reminds me of the parable of the unjust steward a little bit, because it's very unclear in Jesus. You know what I mean? Jesus is like praising somebody for cheating his boss. All right? You know, if you want to go, how's that parallel? Well, it's not a direct parallel. But it sort of is when you look at, for example, there's a standard of the right thing, which is apologizing when you're wrong. And there's a standard of the right thing, which is the amount of money that these clients owed the steward, owed the merchant. And the steward, who instead of recording those debts the right way, said, all right, well, how much do you owe him? And the guy said, you know, 100, whatever. And the steward was like, all right, make it 50. It's a compromise of integrity, which we all do every day, just to greater or lesser degree. I mean, let's be real. Some days you have days. I mean, honestly, I have days where I don't. You know, not even in a tiny way. It's really not. Doesn't come into question. I mean, it happens. But when I say every day, I mean it's a common thing. You know what I mean? We encounter it frequently enough. And sometimes, you know what I mean? Sometimes Lord showed me situations where, believe it or not, as much as we want to say, it is never wise to compromise your integrity, it is not always entirely true. For example, if I were to admit to spending money on drugs, that could cause me serious consequences. Even though I'm doing all the right things, if there are people that are not looking at me going, wow, this is a great guy, he's really doing, people that are they're looking for chum, that could cause me unjust, in my mind, definitely, and I think in most people's, if they're being honest with themselves, that wouldn't be sort of right, would it? Even if it, for example, if I were spending money that I got from the government on drugs, you know, technically that's wrong, right? And there are laws against that, and policies and everything like that. However, they also know that people that are on welfare, by the way, you know, of course they're spending the money on, I mean, they know that, and they don't pursue it, you know what I mean? Because, like, you know, it's hard to prove anyway, number one. And number two, like, you know, it's just, but if there was someone that, you know what I mean? For example, most people are not going on video and would say it either. And neither would I, honestly. I would not do that. But I'm saying that, do you get my point there, though? Is that clear? That it would be wrong. And that, for example, like that almost parallel, and I gotta tell you, wow, shit. I think that's one of the first times I found a pretty good parallel to the parable to the parable of the unjust steward. It's very similar. I think that's what Christ, honestly, I think that's what Christ is saying. Because, for example, I think it's in Luke 12. Hold on. Okay, let's not waste time. Let me go get my phone real quick. Hold on. Parable of the unjust steward. I was close. I said Luke 13. It's Luke 16. There we go. I didn't want to, you know what I mean? Who knows? Because I could have been more off than I thought. All right. This is a very difficult parable. I'm going to read part of it. After I told you what happened, right? Jesus says, "And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of dishonest wealth, so that when it is gone, they may welcome you into the eternal homes." I'm sorry, I meant to back up. So he replied, okay, this is the last part, 100 containers of wheat. He replied, this is how much he owes him, 100 containers of wheat. He said to him, take your bill and make it 80. And his master commended the dishonest manager, meaning the steward, okay, because he had acted shrewdly. For the children of this age are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than are the children of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of dishonest wealth, so that when it is gone, they may welcome you into the eternal homes. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. That can be hard to decipher right there, what he's saying. But what I think he's saying, if we just back up a lot and look at it almost like, like here I am in South San Francisco, but if I go far enough above the planet, I can see the whole fucking planet, like that. If we do that to the parable, what I think he's saying is what I just said, is that it makes sense sometimes even in your great honesty, because, for example, now it's hard to tell. I'm not going to, because you cannot really come up with a policy about this, and this is what makes it people not say it part of the time. Because, you know what I mean? It's better to say that honesty is always the best policy. Because any other policy really is, like I'm talking about right now, is really nuanced and difficult to describe. But for example, like, yeah, if I have dishonest people working against me that might use my honesty against me and prevent me from doing a greater work, sometimes it's shrewd to not be so candid about stuff. But I would caution you, and caution myself, and caution everybody to you know what I mean? You can take that and run with it and go, oh shit. Like, very rarely. I mean, you should try everything. You know what I mean? That should be the last resort, really. And I explained in a way where it might make sense, where I might do something like that. And I don't think there's anyone that would disagree with that, really. You know what I mean? Because all I'm doing, number one, is just being honest about something that people are already doing. And if you want to be, you know, if I want to pat myself on the back here for a minute, and I will take occasion to do that, I don't know anyone else, I don't know any other using drug addicts that are taking the steps I am to really keep themselves on the right path the best they can. So that would not be the person to bust it, you know what I mean? That's bullshit. But you would do it if you had a good axe to grind. And I already have issues, as I've discussed with the HSA. There's, you know what I mean? So for example, that's not something that I would do if I were doing it. All right? So, all right. The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Okay. So we're on 7, okay, finishing up the logs for 7/7 at noontime, and then 6 p.m. And then we have, okay, so Angelus and the Lord's Prayer. A.m. And I think we took medication how long ago? Like 20 minutes ago, right? So we'll make that like 9:40. Okay. A.M. Angelus. Latin. Psalm 140. 7:8:22. Seven, 8:22. 9:40 a.m. 1 emergency. 1 lisinopril. D3 2,000 units. And then 0.5 milliliters naltrexone. Fantastic. All right. Now, here's what I want you to do for those of you that are not familiar. I want you to read the next couple lines after where I stopped in the parable. It'll blow your mind, like really. I didn't read it right now because it didn't make my point. But it does make my point. overall, it does make my point. But it might have taken away your focus from what I was saying. So I didn't want to read it, but go ahead and read it. All right? Remember to brush your teeth, to floss, and to say your prayers. And I'll see you in the next video. I love you all. Should I tell you what it is that I want you to read, just in case? All right, hold on. Read Luke chapter 16, 10 through 12. That comes right after. And then read, what before that, what came right before that is what we talked about, what I said. And then Luke 16, 1, 6. Here. Unjust Steward. It's 1 through 13, okay? But I want you to take a look at what comes, like, okay? Look how the tone kind of changes there a little bit. It's pretty cool. I do it a lot myself, but it can be difficult when someone, you know what I mean? Depending, like, just, yeah, go ahead and check it out. See what you think, okay? I love you. Remember to brush your teeth, to floss, and to say your prayers, and I'll see you in the next video. I love you all.